Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Straight Talk, Principia Roundtables 2022. I am Barbara Blackwell. I am the Chief Advancement and Planning Officer for Principia and delighted to welcome each and every one of you here this evening. This initiative of these roundtables has been just a delight to engage in. We have over 300 of you registered for this evening, and this is the final roundtable that will be hosted by trustees. We will be doing some additional roundtables in the months to come in April, and then during reunion that will be administrative roundtables where we will do a slightly deeper dive into operational issues. But tonight is the final one that our wonderful trustees are doing. They have been quite dedicated to this project, and their motivation is to really do all that they can do to provide simple, honest, natural, and direct communication about where Principia is, what we're struggling with, what some of our challenges are, how we're praying through some of the issues that we face, and many of the successes that we see on a daily basis in classrooms, on the playing fields, and in our everyday interactions with our dear students. So it is just a delight to have you. I'll tell you a little bit about our format this evening. We will attempt to keep this to an hour. With each of these, our material has gotten a little longer and a little stronger. So we want to provide as much information as we possibly can. So each of the panelists will begin with a little introduction of the topic that they will be addressing. And then we will follow up with questions from me that have come from you. So those questions have been provided in advance, as we invited you to do, and we will cover as many of them as we are able to do. So I'd like to introduce our three panelists this evening. We have with us tonight Steve DeWindt, who is upper school class of 73 and college 77. Steve serves on the board and on the executive committee of the board. We have Kristin Jamerson, upper school 75 and college 79. And Kristin is relatively new to the board and just an incredibly and wonderfully strong board member already. And then finally, our acting chief executive, Scott Schneberger. And Scott is college 76, I believe. Is that correct, Scott?
Sorry. 70,
sorry. Okay. Well, I gave you the benefit of the doubt there. Trying to keep all of these class years straight. And we're delighted to have all three of them. Without further ado, I think we can jump into our material for the evening. We're going to start with Steve DeWindt, who is going to talk to us a little bit about where enrollment is at Principia on both campuses. Steve.
Thanks, Barbara. I had to do the usual, oops, I left myself muted. Everybody, thank you for joining this call. It's lovely to see so many people that really love and support Principia and are showing it through spending time like this, getting to learn more about what's going on at the moment. I really just wanted to start first by sharing something a consulting firm told us recently. They came in to help us with our marketing and positioning. And they did a number of interviews with students. And I love the way that they described, they said, we were stunned with what was going on, just the amount of love that we saw expressed. They'd never seen a place where students expected teachers to love them. They were also blown away by the expectation of transformation and excellence by virtually everyone that they spoke with. That was pretty cool. So let's talk first, though, really about what's going on with enrollment at both the college and the school. both campuses have seen a consistent decrease over the last 2 decades. Can we throw a slide up that shows some of the numbers on this? There it comes. So I'm not going to bore you with the whole thing, but look, here you can see that the school is at 401 at the moment, and you can see the various segments that are broken out there. And even though the upper school is the highest, it also has the most unused capacity. We really need students at the upper school. Early learning is really growing. And overall, you see, again, we've got about 400 students. Our goal at the school in St. Louis is to have 500 to 600 students there. And, you know, just some quick history that we had over 400 in the upper school alone in the 70s. So we are down. Let's move on to the next slide, which talks about the college. Okay, right at the moment, you can see that we are at 334. And this is down from, you know, about 500 10 years ago. And that was down significantly from the highs in the 70s and the 80s when it was routinely between 600 and 700. Our goal, as you can see here, is to have 525 to 545 overall. Another thing to sort of just keep in mind is that this is not a Principia only issue. Private schools and colleges from across the country are facing enrollment challenges. Okay, you can take down the slide. The Board of Trustees has been grappling with how to best honor Principia's mission to serve the cause of Christian Science as an educational institution in the 21st century. We have felt a need to expand the way in which we looked at our mission. And we sort of morphed it a bit beyond serving Christian scientists to serving Christian Science itself. And in response to that desire, coupled with, frankly, facing a smaller pool of traditional Christian Science prospective students, the Board of Trustees launched an effort which we called widening the tent and strengthening the stakes. And we did that in 2019. This was also known as, you might have heard about, the pilot program, or more recently, new market students. This program allowed both campuses to begin to enroll students who did not fit the traditional Christian Science background. The approach has not been simply to put bodies in seats. It has been to recruit truly Principia-ready students and families, those that are attracted to the qualities that they see expressed on this campus and in this community. And they want to live by our standards. And so let's throw up a slide here that we can show the parameters that the board stipulated. This is what should guide admissions in looking at new students. While that is coming up, I'll just keep talking. Really, one of the questions that we go in and look at this is, are they attracted to just the school and the classes they can take, or are they also attracted to the moral and spiritual opportunities here? Because that's fundamental. Think about, are they going to live with Prin community standards? What do they bring? Do they respect Christian Science healing? Are they open to learning about Christian Science? Are they active in their own religion? Now, think about how this actually came about. For years, and I mean lots of years, my dad told me stories about this when he was going to Principia in the 1930s and early 40s, that for years, non-Christian Science parents have asked if their children could attend Principia. Those families are attracted today, as they have been in years past. They're attracted to the qualities that they see being expressed both by people who work at Principia, but the children who attend Principia. They're attracted by the way Principia athletes conduct themselves on the field. They're attracted to the way that they see people in other kinds of competition. It's these qualities that are drawing people here. And so we decided to put in place this program to test this out. You can get rid of this slide now. And the early results, frankly, have been promising. Both the school and the college are seeing an uptick in enrollment and admissions, and the students that we're recruiting are motivated to be contributing members of our community, not just sitting in classes and filling out homework. They actually are enjoying all of the other activities that are going on there. Now, the trustees have asked each campus to analyze their results and give us their recommendations. And we're going to be reviewing those at every trustee meeting. We had our first review in February. It's going to take time, frankly, to fully assess the various impacts of this program. But understand, Christian Science remains at the center of everything we do. Currently, there are 65 pilot or new market students at the school. That's about 15 or 16% of the students. And there are 23 students at the college. That's about 7%. Understand this, but we aren't trying to create a separate class of students. Once somebody is accepted into Principia, they have to be Principia ready. And once they're inside, they are Principias. Understand that all students coming in, whether it's through this program or not, they have demonstrated a desire for spiritual growth as well as academic readiness. Barbara?
Great introduction, Steve, to all of this wonderful topic of enrollment. Just a couple of questions have come in along the way that I'm going to answer quickly. For those of you that have attended other roundtables, much of the material that we will be going over tonight will be the same. This is an effort to educate, and it was not meant for all of these to necessarily be different. We will be adding the questions that came in specifically for this roundtable that folks who were able to attend this particular roundtable wanted to have answered. So there are some new questions, but for those of you that have attended other ones, you will also hear some of the same information. So I just wanted to be clear on that. Okay, follow-up questions on enrollment topics. What support, financial and otherwise, are we willing to provide to these new market candidates and students?
We offer the same level of support, both financial and anything else, to all qualified Principia students once they're admitted. So again, Principia students, no matter where they came from or what program they came through, once they've been accepted, they are Principia students. There are not different levels of student citizenship.
How many international students are there at the college? And is there a limit to how many international students we would enroll?
Currently, the college has about 25% international. And the international students are as Principia ready as the domestic students when you compare them with academic proficiency and a desire for spiritual growth. And some people may be concerned about, gosh, isn't that percentage getting up there? Look at our movement. Our growth in the international population mirrors the change in the Christian Science movement. And we believe that we are firmly in line with our mission as we go forward.
What is Principia's plan to increase enrollment at the college and on the St. Louis campus?
Boy, both campuses have targeted enrollment as their highest priority. The board has signaled its support for these efforts by allocating additional resources on an as-needed basis to support the administration's efforts, such as recently approving that the college could hire a dean of admissions and recruiting focused on the college per se. Both campuses are actively working with outside marketing firms to refine their messaging and identify appropriate new markets. Now, next month in April, we're going to have a roundtable with admissions professionals from both campuses and focus just on that. So if that's of interest to you, try and get signed up for that. They will go into more detail about their efforts at that time and how they're executing on the goals that we have in our new strategic plan. We hope you'll join us. And also, we hope that if you know any Principia Ready students in your area, you're going to send them our way.
Amen. Follow-up question. Have we specifically targeted students who come from denominations that might be complementary to Christian Science, the Unity Church, for example?
So both the school and the college are carefully identifying new markets where the probability of fit seems to be highest. That includes both spiritual and faith backgrounds, as well as other lifestyle choices, such as the desire for a dry campus.
So keeping class sizes at Principia small or manageable was one of the reasons we chose Principia. It's a higher caliber education when the teachers can work with smaller classes and engage all the students all of the time. We feel Principia is trying to recruit or add more students to the school. Our student is in second grade and she has 22 students in her class with her. How many more students do you plan on adding to the classrooms?
I would love to talk about this. Just getting the question signals that we're seeing movement and success in our admissions and recruiting efforts. But this question also points out the very delicate balance that schools like Principia have to maintain. Now, right at the moment, I can't give you an exact number. My guess is this is going to vary from year to year. I can tell you that we remain committed to the highly individualized education that smaller classrooms allow. This past year, we've added faculty to the grades where classes were growing in order to keep our ratios where we want to see them.
Lots of questions about enrollment, Steve, so bear with me. Regarding new students and parents who are recently acquainted with Principia and Christian Science, has there been an opportunity to receive responses from them after they have joined the community? And if yes, how are they doing with sports, classmates, and our care of their children and families these first years?
Both campuses are checking in frequently with all students as we assess, both formally and informally, how this pilot program is going. From all of the anecdotal evidence that we've gathered, these new students are loving Principia and are not only acclimating well, but are bringing things to the community. They are blessings to the community, and Principia appears to be blessing them in return. Let me give you an example. During a recent lower school gratitude testimony chapel, one of our new market students, who does not attend Christian Science Church and in fact attends a Hindu temple, he gave a testimony. He shared that he had an upcoming dentist appointment that he was nervous about because he had to have a tooth pulled. He said he had decided to fill his thought up with good thoughts from God, since he had learned at his school that God heals. He shared that he thought about how he could not be afraid because God was in charge and God didn't make pain. He thought about this all the way to the dentist. During his appointment, he felt no pain, and he knew this was because he chose to pray to God before his appointment. What an example of fulfilling our mission.
Two more. First is, what is the minimum number of students needed to maintain a financially and academically healthy college?
We have a 5-year strategic plan, and the targets in there call for numbers which I gave you earlier. The school at 500 to 600, and at the college 525 to 545. These are numbers we believe are required for the best academic, social, and extracurricular experience. I'm not sure we can say what the minimum level is with certainty, but we clearly need to grow our enrollment.
So many donors and alumni trust that Principia is still a school or college of and for Christian Scientists, as Mrs. Morgan intended. When will the development and marketing departments address that misconception fully and frankly?
There's no motive or intent to be dishonest in what we're doing. That's one of the primary reasons that we're having these straight talk roundtables. You're getting our real numbers. We're talking about our real challenges here. And we're laying out for you our real prayerful approach to meeting those challenges in ways that we believe are true to our mission while addressing the realities of our current landscape. But let's be clear here. We remain committed to our mission of serving the cause of Christian Science. The way that manifests itself shifts over time, and we're doing our best to communicate that. But we believe we are living this mission. Barbara, anything else, or can I make a few closing things?
Sure, the floor is yours, Steve.
Okay. Let me just lay this out a little bit differently. The Board of Trustees is really focused on the idea of Principia and its delightful purpose and function. Our commitment is firm, and our desire is firm. But let's consider what we're facing right now. Private education institutions are having issues all across the country. Church membership and attendance is down, not just within Christian Science, but lots of different faiths. There are multiple claims that there simply is not enough families, enough students, enough religion, faith, happiness, you name it, there's not enough. And it's easy to be overwhelmed with numbers. The question for all of us is, are we coming at this from a viewpoint of lack or of abundance, of sorrow or of joy? This is a call to arms for our outlook on life itself. We want you to know that we are going about our jobs as trustees by praying to God for help and working as we feel we are being led. Let me give you just one other instance of how we think stuff is happening that we love to see. One of our female basketball players at the college is a new market student. And during a game, she twisted her ankle, had to go onto the sidelines. And on the sidelines, they asked, do you want a Christian Science nurse? Do you want to talk to a practitioner? Do you want to talk to a trainer? What do you want? So this is a new market student. She wasn't raised as a Christian Scientist. And she said, I want to talk to my roommate who's a Christian Scientist. Okay, so we got her roommate, brought her roommate to talk to her. The roommate gave her a metaphysical treatment. And with that, the roommate went back to watching the game and the girl went back in. Again, this is evidence for us that we are fulfilling our mission. It's just different because the Christian Science movement looks different than certainly when I went to the college. Barbara, back to you.
Thanks, Steve. We're going to shift gears here from enrollment to some of the issues regarding leadership and governance and finances. So Scott Schneberger is going to introduce some of these topics and we'll go from there. Scott.
Thank you, Barbara. And Steve, well said. Thank you. Hello, everyone. So glad you could join us. I'm currently serving as the acting chief executive. At times, this position has been combined with the board chair, as it was in the beginning of Principia, but in this last January, the board decided to keep them separate. Historically, that combined structure has come and gone and come again at Principia, depending on the needs of the day. But in the meantime, a search is underway for appointing a new fully chief executive. Now, while there have been more leadership changes at the top recently that we would like, we need to remember that people come to Principia for many reasons and people leave Principia for many reasons. We are actually not that unusual in our current rate of turnover. They're challenging jobs. And remember, having new leadership with fresh eyes and thinking is not always bad. Now, that said, we would prefer to have stable and inspired leadership at the top of both campuses and in the chief executive role. So the board's committed to identifying, hiring, and supporting effective administrators for the long term. Barbara?
Yeah, a few follow-up questions, Scott. Can you tell us more about the new head of school?
Yeah, I'm delighted to tell you more about Dr. Mary Sorrells, the incoming head of school. She's a Principia College graduate, class of 79. She has already served as head of school at 2 other highly regarded private schools, as well as a director of admissions and a director of advancement. She's also served on the boards for private schools. She's a dedicated Christian Scientist and is currently serving as a reader at her branch church. She officially starts on July 1st this year, but is already working in transition. In fact, she was here on campus just last month for a week, attending last month's Board of Trustees meeting, and is meeting online with the current interim head of school weekly. So we're really blessed to have her.
Great. What steps are being taken to address the cause of the high rate of turnover of Principia's administration?
Well, as I said earlier, there can be many causes, but the board's taking some preemptive steps. As acting CE, one of my charges was to create a more coherent professional development plan within the organization. So we worked with an outside consultant. We conducted 360-degree reviews of senior administrators And we're following up with professional coaching and mentoring at both the highest and the mid levels of administration. We're basically investing in our people considerably and are working hard to establish strong leadership on each campus and institution-wide.
And what steps are being taken to recruit, retain, and develop the college faculty?
Yeah, good question. Well, every new faculty member goes through an extensive orientation when they arrive. Then there are professional development activities at the beginning of every semester for all faculty. There's a Center for Teaching and Learning to support faculty members in the classroom, including peer reviews. There's sabbatical time for personal and professional development and research. And we provide time and financial support for faculty seeking additional degrees. And that's a lot.
Terrific. Okay. Trustees, what is the policy regarding trustees and other leaders at Principia? Must they be active Christian Scientists?
Yes, all members of the Board of Trustees and senior administrators at Principia are required to be active class-taught Christian Scientists. Absolutely.
In hiring faculty and administrators, is preference given to applicants who are Christian Scientists? And if not, why not?
Yes, in hiring faculty and student-facing staff, preference is always given to applicants who are active Christian Scientists. Now, in recent years at the school, it has been challenging to find Christian Scientists who are credentialed and qualified to teach in a particular subject. So the school has hired some highly qualified visiting professionals who do not self-identify as Christian Scientists. But these faculty members are not second string teachers. They are valued members of our community. They love Principia and they love seeing their students as unlimited. These new faculty members have proven to be remarkable contributors to the school community, and we're really grateful to have their enthusiasm and commitment. Now, that said, we are investigating ways that we can increase the pipeline of active Christian Science teachers. To date, at the college administration has not felt it necessary to hire non-Christian Scientists in student-facing roles. They have more leeway than the school in shaping their academic programs and who's teaching what. So while qualified Christian Science educators have become increasingly harder to find, Principia continues to value the importance of maintaining our Christian Science foundation. Our Principia strength relies on dedicated Christian Scientists demonstrating the ability to view students as spiritual and unlimited. That has not changed.
Scott, are the current administrators aware of the impact of their decisions on the mission of Principia?
Oh, absolutely. And yes, changes are occurring at Principia as they are in society. And we're making these decisions really carefully with inspiration and full devotion to Christian Science and our mission. And the evidence of our work, as Steve mentioned earlier, is still there. The joy in our student lives, the outstanding academics in the classrooms, the character education in the dorms and on the playing fields, they're still there and as strong, if not stronger. God has a plan for Principia, as Mary Kimball Morgan said, and that plan is still very much alive and evident.
Great. Thank you, Scott. I'm going to turn to Steve DeWindt here for another aspect of our governance and leadership, because Steve is on a search committee for a permanent chief executive. So Steve, maybe you can give us a quick update on that search.
Happy to. The board has officially restarted the search for a permanent chief executive, and applications are And nominations are still being accepted for about another week, 10 more days. We've set an ambitious timeline and hope to have the decision made for the coming academic year. We're actually going to start first round of interviews this month. And interestingly, it feels different. We believe that now there's a greater sense of unity and shared direction at this point for Principia that will result in a clear result. And we welcome all of your assistance in supporting this process metaphysically.
Thank you. Now we're going to return to Scott for just a bit on the finances of Principia. And then we'll turn I know there's been some questions about student life and Kristin's going to follow up with that. So just a little teaser. Principia finances. Scott.
Yep, there we go. Unmuting. Several of you have asked about our finances, so I'd like to show you first a slide that might help with some basics. Could we see that slide? The money slide, finances. As you can see, the current level of our endowment is huge. The current budget is about $73 million a year. And the draw on the endowment is roughly $50 million. And if you'll notice under funding sources, you see the sort of tan brown area, that's the endowment draw. I'll come back to that in a minute. On the right side are the expenses. And one thing you might notice is that most of those expenses, although some of them are in different colors, have to do with students. Academic support, libraries, student instruction, and so forth. Okay, if you could kill that slide, I'll just come back to talking with you. So as you saw, we're blessed with a huge endowment that allows us to provide really generous support of our students. For example, nearly 94% of our students receive some level of financial assistance. That's almost $16 million a year in aid to students. And please note the slide also showed the breakdown of expenses and revenue, right? And most of that income comes from our endowment. Well, it's really important for Principia to sustain our endowment for future decades of students. So we have intentionally focused on reducing the endowment draw. That draw has been as high as 8% per year. That's considered not financially sustainable in the long run. We simply can't keep spending more than we bring in forever. So while it's now down to roughly 7%, the norm for educational organizations is somewhere between 4 and 5%. So we still have a bit of a ways to go for the long term. Barbara?
Scott, how do you balance financial decisions at Principia between academic programming and protecting the endowment?
Yeah, great question. You know, clearly, we don't want to have lots of money with no programs or students, but we also don't want to have a lot of students and programs without the money to support them. So it's pretty difficult to balance the two. So the board with the campus leadership is always in discussion about this. Students and classroom support are always our priority. You saw that in the slide that showed the categories of our highest expenses. But the reality is the Principia also maintains 2 large physical campuses that require ongoing investment in building. Faculty and staff on both campuses need to be competitively compensated. Athletic programs, shared services, and a host of other operational costs are there, and sometimes they seem invisible, but they're there. And balancing all this is challenging, and it's under constant scrutiny and discussion, so that each year's budget meets that year's need, and we're thinking long-term, not just short-term.
There's a lot to that process. Is there any intention of selling a portion of the St. Louis campus?
Right. Well, the time may come when there is a plan to do so, but currently there's no such plan underway.
Okay. And finally, what are some of the new capital expenditures on both campuses?
Oh, yeah. We have invested in the new Simon Athletic Complex at the school, including new fields. This project has been primarily donor funded with more than 26 million in gifts. Thank you very much. The fields, by the way, were designed not only to serve the needs of our students, but to be money makers, with private organizations renting them when they're not in use by our students. This was part of our financial model for the Simon Project from the very outset. At the college over the last 7 years, we've renovated the Voney Art Building, totally renovated the old Maury Fieldhouse into a first-class theater, and we did a major renovation of the School of Government. And now we are in the early stages of selecting master planning firms as we plan for the future needs of both campuses. So we are growing in many ways. Barbara?
That's great. Thank you. And now we're going to turn to the very robust subject of student life at Principia today. And it's a broad topic. We will do our best to cover the aspects of the topic that each of you have asked about. And Kristin Jamerson is going to give us an overview, and then we'll follow up with some specific questions. So Kristin.
Great, thank you. Welcome, everyone. I'm so grateful of your expression of care and love for Principia, just like the three of us, the trustees and all the administrators that have helped us prepare for this. We are very grateful for your participation and really appreciate your presence here, showing your love and devotion to Principia. I'm going to speak about student life, the culture on campus, and treatment choice. And you have heard that a lot has changed at Principia, and we're constantly praying and trying to navigate our way through this to honor serving the cause of Christian Science and what that looks like in 2022. And you may know, it's been referenced that most of our students do not come from households which were traditionally two-parent Christian Science families. We're finding that a lot of the students have multiple faiths in their household and treatment choices. And so this is making our navigation of this landscape a little bit more complicated, as you've heard and as you can imagine. And we appreciate your empathy with us as we do navigate this. You may remember that in 2018, the Board of Trustees issued a treatment choice policy, making it clear that each individual, faculty and students, were free to make their own choice when it came to healthcare. And this is really a reflection or partnering with some other churches' official statement about healing and treatment choice that was issued around the same time. So there are things that look different at Principia, different from when I was there and perhaps when you were there. Some things have remained the same. I just wanted to highlight a few of those. Every Monday morning, there is chapel on the St. Louis campus for every student. And in the dorms on the St. Louis campus, every student is required to go to Sunday school and participate in daily metaphysical work. Sunday school or church attendance at the college hasn't been required for decades, but we do provide Sunday school on campus, and the CSO at the college, it remains very active. We also, this is new, we've provided Christian Science practitioner office hours 6 days a week, free of charge. And we heard just even last week from one of the practitioners that serves there that her healing practice is robust with students coming to her. So that's a wonderful strengthening of that stake. Christian Science nurses continue to be available on both campuses for students who are seeking assistance with their Christian Science healing. But something that is new is both in the state of Illinois and in Missouri, we are now mandated by the athletic conferences to provide professional athletic trainers. So that's something that's new. We've also created on the college a wholeness program, which in addition to providing practitioners and spiritual healing resources, do provide referrals and resources for students who are seeking medical or professional counseling. Both campuses remain dry. There is no alcohol or illegal drug use allowed on campus. The same is true for Principia sponsored off-campus activities as well. But we have pivoted a bit, moving away from a more punitive approach to handling challenges where students are attracted to drugs or drinking, to one where we're inviting students into conversation, students that are struggling with an attraction to drugs or alcohol, bringing them into conversation to participate in discussions about the choices they make and what motivates this choice and the impact this choice has. So this is more of a comprehensive approach where students are, they're not expelled, they're embraced and supported rather than shunned. But ultimately, if a student does continue to not follow this standard on campus, they are asked to leave. They're not Principia ready, demonstrating that they're not Principia ready. I just want to also emphasize, there's been a mention of character education, which continues to be at the focus for the entire organization. There are a couple of new things along those lines. There's a character education task force at the college. There's a required course called Decisions and Dilemmas. In order to graduate, the student has to pass this course. There's a new spiritual life director at the college and a student engagement director. All these initiatives are to provide a more intentional context for each student's character education. And then we're also working very closely to be inclusive of all students as they seek to discover their individual identity as a child of God. And this includes education about how to honor and respect your neighbor, no matter how they identified. Every Principian belongs and matters at the school and the college. So Barbara, you have some questions for me? Let's see, I think you're muted.
Sorry. Thanks for that great overview. There's a lot happening in this area, and I know it holds a lot of interest for folks. So several follow-up questions here. Will Principia update its policies, capital P policies, the 23 policies found that have guided us to reflect the current reality on campuses?
Yes. At the fall 2021 Board of Trustee meeting, there was a new committee that was created. It's the Ad Hoc Policy Review Committee. And we're going to do I'm a member of this committee. We're going to do a comprehensive review of the policies, which are the governing principles for all of Principia's work. And you all may know that these policies were created by a committee in the 1940s with the intent that they would be reviewed periodically and perhaps revised. And the last major update was done in the 1960s. So we are kind of due for a look at the policies in light of where Principia is in 2022. This ad hoc policy review committee includes trustees as well as administrators, and we're going to look at the policies from multiple levels. It's intended to provide clarity where maybe there's some professional titles that need reviewing, linguistic usage. We also will review the policies for gender neutrality, as well as being more attentive to diversity, equity, and inclusive language. This is also a result of the impact that the 3 policies that the board has put into place in the last couple of years, the pilot program, the treatment choice, and the discrimination policy, we need to bring our 23 policies up in line with those. So the committee has begun its work. We're already starting, and we look forward to bringing amendments, proposals back to the board for discussion, and then updating our stakeholders as we make progress on this.
Great. Okay. Will Principia change its identity as it admits new market students?
I don't think so. Principia is Principia, and our mission remains to serve the cause of Christian Science as an educational institution. As we reach out to these new prospective students that don't come from a Christian Science background, we're finding new ways to share Principia, and we've hired on both campuses outside marketing firms. They've had an enormous help to us as we help to build language that more clearly and representationally communicates what Principia is all about, what makes how Christian Science is presented and lived on campus. And this character education, you know, this is our secret sauce, if you will. We may be the original educational institution devoted to character education, and we really want to communicate that. So we are looking for increasingly more direct ways to communicate that to these new market students.
Does the college have any commitments that accepted students must agree to? Do they apply both on and off campus? And if yes, are there consequences for not upholding them when off campus?
Absolutely, yes. All students need to be Principia ready. And upon application, they sign a code of conduct to uphold the community standards. And I would encourage everyone to go online and review the code of conduct at the college. I believe it's available on our website, because a lot of effort went into in the last year or so to review it and revise it and bring it up to date. And we included a lot of stakeholders in that. A lot of effort and prayer went into that. This code of conduct requires all students to commit to standards that include no drinking or illegal drugs on campus or at Principia sponsored events. But it does not, however, address behavior off campus.
And how do you justify having different standards on campus and off campus at the college in relation to drinking?
Well, Principia is no longer claiming jurisdiction over students when they're off-campus activities. They may be engaged in something legal, like if they're over 21 and having a beer with dinner. And Principia is just not going to reach that far to monitor that. But if they come back to campus, absolutely, they have to abide by our standards, or they're involved in anything on campus or a Principia sponsored event. And the goal here is to make it more practical effort for the students to develop their own moral and spiritual commitments when they're not living on campus, as they prepare to be adults out in the world. We hope that this, and we intend that this, will help create intrinsic motivation to make better choices.
Thank you. What are the admission standards for non-Christian Science students that are in place to help maintain high ethical and moral standards on campus?
Again, the admission standards are the same for all students, but it's clear, as Steve mentioned, that non-Christian Science students are coming to our campus because they see the high moral atmosphere, and they are seeking a dry campus with a foundation in faith. And I just want to say I have just learned this last week that there's a new market student at the college who is applying to be an RA, which includes a very rigorous training on sharing Christian Science with her peers. So we have this same standard for all students. And to be perfectly honest, the disciplinary issues we see have often come from students who would be labeled coming from traditional Christian Science families. And it's so complicated. But again, this may not be that different from when I was there, or maybe the folks on the call here. I remember students who flouted the rules and didn't abide by the moral commitments. Their conduct did not reflect their commitment to the moral contract. So today, as I said, regardless of someone's background, they are all students are expected to make choices that foster well-being in themselves and in relation to others, and then as a community member as a whole.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a question in a moment, Kristin, about Christian Science nurses, but first I wanted to, I'm not exactly sure what you said, but I want to be clear about our athletic trainer. I just got a little email from someone in the college athletic department clarifying, and she says the college has been required by the NCAA to have an athletic trainer at games for sorry, I lost the email, for contact sports for over 2 decades. Within the past 5 to 7 years, that has been extended to include a trainer on site for practices as well as all games. Previous to this year, the college had an athletic trainer who was contracted to come to campus. And this year, that individual was hired as an employee of Principia. And it's the same individual who's been working for the college for over 20 years and has a great knowledge and respect for the Principia way and for our Christian Science beliefs and way of handling things. So I wanted to just clarify that.
Yeah, that's great to have that live update with more specific, with more accuracy.
Right. Okay. Is it true that Christian Science nurses are being asked to act as medical nurses?
No, we need to address this impression that the Christian Science nurses on campus have been asked to step outside of their purview by administering medical assistance. We have not asked them to do that, and we are not going to ask them to do that. Occasionally, I think there are students that do come to the Christian Science nurses asking for medical assistance, but that's put them in an uncomfortable position because we really do honor the unique profession of the Christian Science nurse, but we also honor their desire to support students compassionately. So we're in the thick of this. We're praying our way through it. We're in conversation with the Christian Science nurses, with the students and with parents to find the right solution to keep all students safe. And we know we have that responsibility to all Principians, and we are actively praying and looking for solutions.
Okay, question about Sunday school, and then we'll finish up with a question about diversity. Is it true that fewer than 10 students attend the college Sunday school?
Well, we have seen an a decrease in Sunday school attendance at the college, but so for instance, prior to COVID, there were 12 classes of Sunday school students, and currently there are 2. So perhaps in mirroring the experience of people who are branch church members, with the restrictions of COVID, many people have gone on to Zoom to conduct their services and Sunday schools. And some of the students on campus are seeking out their Sunday school from their hometown to go to. COVID has played a role in this shift away from in-person attendance, but the CSO is engaged in addressing this and looking for ways to encourage in-person attendance. And this is also going to be a focus of our new director of spiritual life. So we're very aware of it, but I guess in reflecting what's going on worldwide, it seems to be a result of the pandemic, but we are actively looking to encourage in-person attendance.
Okay, and then a final question, Kristin, about our work with diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, and mattering. Are we teaching critical race theory?
Not at all.
And how are we working on these issues of diversity at Principia right now?
Principia has hired a consultant who, this is her field, is working with folks on equity issues in educational institutions. Her name is Dr. Jennifer Stolman, and she has been contracted to work with faculty, staff on both campuses to depoliticize and to, with professional skills, talk about how to reflect the more diverse culture in our society today. Dr. Stolman has engaged with many individuals within the Principia community on the background of Christian Science and the metaphysical basis of Principia, serving the cause of Christian Science. And she has identified and is celebrating the basis that Christian Scientists have in equity work. And I have personally shared with her a number of many instances in our leaders' writings and in the Bible that give us the basis of seeing each individual as Jesus would see them, and as inspiration and prayer has led. So Dr. Stolman is working with both campuses in this work, but she is, I want to use the word celebrating. She talks about Principia as a unique institution that already has a spiritual foundation for the work, and then where that leads us in practical ways, working on both campuses.
And I would just add, for those of you interested in how Principia is addressing these issues, that we will be having a virtual event panel on March 22nd. You should be receiving information about that in your email this week. And Dr. Stolman will be one of the panelists on that virtual event. So as I say, if you want more information, please do look for that this week. So we are slightly over time, and I want to begin to wind up. So there were a number of questions about COVID. And so Scott, I'm going to ask you to just talk briefly about where we are on that issue at this point in time. And then I'll begin to do a little wrap up with Scott. So Scott, COVID, please.
Okay. Yeah, sure, Barbara. Yeah, in short, we've cared deeply about all Principians and their families. We continue to care deeply about everyone. Both campuses rigorously and faithfully follow the law of their local jurisdictions and the guidance of the CDC regarding masking, distancing, testing, and out of respect for everyone in the community. And I'm pleased to report that both campuses are right now mask optional. And while that status could change, we remain in line with current national and state guidelines on both campuses. But from the outset, we focused on the most important protocol or avenue, metaphysics. We established a forum for community prayers, and in that first spring had a week dedicated to metaphysical support. In all cases, we work to turn first to prayer and then to protocols. And those protocols have evolved over the past 2 years, a bit further complicated because we have two campuses in two different states. We often had to modify requirements based on what jurisdiction the campus was in. But our primary concern has always been to keep students and faculty safe while respecting community expectations. And we have heard from those who fully supported our approach and those who haven't. And we understood both viewpoints. But we studied Mrs. Eddy's own guidance on vaccinations and other health challenges. We believe we acted in alignment with that guidance. Barbara?
So there are many questions and comments that have come in over the course of this that as I suspected, we are not going to have time to address this evening. I do encourage you to continue to watch. We will be doing 2 in-depth roundtables with administrators, one on student life and one on enrollment in April. Those dates should be to you within the next week in terms of the specific evenings when we will be doing each of those. And I believe that they will cover most of the questions that were asked this evening. There was one question I did want to address before we close, just because I wanted to be sure that we are conveying correct information. So the college, the sign at the front of the college about 10 years ago was changed from Principia College to Principia College, a college for Christian Scientists. As some of you may have heard, those words, a college for Christian Scientists, did come down about 2 weeks ago. And as Steve DeWindt talked about in his opening remarks about enrollment, it reflects this shift that we that is pervasive as we think about shifting from serving Christian Scientists to serving Christian Science. And as we admitted new market students who do not identify as Christian Scientists, it felt as if that sign was just no longer one that we should have, and that we should change that wording. There is a process underway at the college right now for determining what the new wording will say. In President Williams' announcement about the sign, he indicated that he has every hope and intent that the words Christian Science will appear on that sign. We don't know exactly what it will say yet, but I just wanted to be clear on what came down. There is some notion that to serve the cause of Christian Science came down. Those were not the words on the sign. The words on the sign were a college for Christian Scientists. And so I just wanted to be clear on that. And I would ask for your help in clearing up that misperception in the field to the degree that you can. That would be helpful to us as we make our way through this and determine the next best thing. So Scott, I'm going to ask one final question to you, and then I'll have some logistics at the end. How can alumni whose children are well past college age best support Principia at this point?
Okay, I'd love to answer this one. But my answer will be for alumni and the rest of you attending this evening. So here are some ways to support Principia. Even if your own children are past school age, how about others who might be Principia ready? Grandchildren, neighbors, Sunday school students? Tell them to contact the admissions office on either campus, or contact the office yourself and tell us about them. We'll contact them. The second way is to be an advocate for Principia. There's way too much misinformation and misunderstanding. Please let folks know, perhaps based on this roundtable, where Principia is on issues, and share facts, please, not rumors. We're working tirelessly to navigate many waters, and we need your support. Third way, support Principia financially. Every one of your gifts makes a difference and allows us to keep our program strong and invest in new and better educational practices for the long run. Fourth way, pray. Your regular prayerful support of Principia and the Christian Science movement is needed. I invite all of us tonight, everyone on this webinar, to join us in daily prayer for Principia, its students, its leadership, its programs, and its bright future. And actually, another way to support Principia is to participate in roundtable discussions like this whenever we have them, any one of them. But thank you for attending tonight, asking great questions, and listening to us. Let's do it again.
I'm sure we will. So I just want to let each of you know that you will receive a very brief survey about this roundtable, and we really appreciate your feedback and are diligently reading all of the comments. And so please do respond to that if you would please. And a recording of this will be available to you as well and be posted on our website within, I believe, at least 48 hours, probably 24. And so if there's anything you missed, or if you wanted to direct other people to it, you are welcome to do so. We are so grateful for your commitment, your passion, the fact that you care about Principia, even if you may not agree with everything that we're doing right now. You're here, and that means that you care, and we are loving that and loving each and every one of you and your support for our dear institution. So thank you all and good night.